Today, what it's like to drive a Ford Transit, specifically a Winnebago EKKO. So we had questions about how the Ford Transit would handle and what it would be like to drive it. And I'm betting you may too. So today we're going to share with you several things about what it's like to drive the EKKO that's built on the Ford Transit. This thing is actually pretty powerful. Accelerating onto interstates when it says to merge, it's really fast at getting up to speed, and we like that. Another thing you may want to know about is how difficult is it to find a parking place. Well, in the middle of some small town, it may be a little difficult, but places like Walmart and restaurants, we never, ever seem to worry about that at all. What we'll do is find a place like this a little bit away from the door, pull through, and then she's parked. Easy peasy. So getting gas is not that difficult either. In fact, it's easier because there's so many gas pumps compared to diesel that you can pick the one that's best for you. The height usually is never an issue as well, and well, stop and put a little bit of gas in. Another feature, auto stop. What it does is every time you're at a stoplight or a stop sign, it'll actually shut the motor off. Freaks you out when it first does it and you don't know what's going on. But since we have a second alternator, we really don't want to have to do this. So what I have to do, reach over here and press that little button every time I put the key in. If you follow the channel, The Fit RV, James has a fix for that you can put in the ODB port. We may be getting that as well. Our first toll booth with Ocho, our Transit. Not sure how much it's going to cost. A normal passenger car would be $4.25. Might be $100.
I don't think so.
Would have been $4.25 for a passenger car. Our Transit cost $5.25, so it wasn't that much more expensive. Well, if you've ever had adaptive cruise control, I think you'd have a hard time living without it. Luckily, the Ford Transit has a really good adaptive cruise control system. As people are pulling in front of me here, it keeps the distance just right, and it makes driving really easy when you're on an interstate like this. If you couple that with how gently it handles the lane assist, it's a real joy to drive. I'm going to get Lynn to bring the camera over here, and I'm going to purposely kind of go a little bit off of the, well, close to the white line, and I'll show you what it does. So we're going to go close to the white line and watch it correct. Did you see it take the steering wheel? I'll do it again. See, it took the steering wheel away from me and moved me over here. I'll move to the center line. You can see it do the same thing. That's actually a pleasant thing because in our previous van, it was really aggressive in how it tried to correct things, and that made us, it usually worried me a lot, so I'm very happy with that. Maybe you've got a Ford Transit van that doesn't have, you know, a B+ like we have in our EKKO, and I'm betting it's not as noisy, but unless I stick my finger in my ear, at 70 miles an hour on a regular asphalt road like this, well, you can hear the noise. Here, I'll be quiet and let you hear that. I wish it were quieter. We have a suspicion that most of the noise comes from that back door back there, and we're going to continue to work on that. We put some noise dampening material inside of the outside kitchen. It helped a little, but I think we're going to have to reseal that back door around the screen door in order to get rid of some of that noise, because it's tiring when you've been driving for now 7 hours today. And one correction we made is we bought the Van Essentials cover for the Max Air fan. We put that on there, It helped a little bit, but all this noise you're hearing is with that in place. Another standard safety feature that has been added by Winnebago is blind spot assistance, so that if someone's in my blind spot, you'll see a red light come on over here. We're getting ready to have someone pass me now. You'll see that light come on as I get, and if I turn on my turn signal, it blinks and it tells me with that sound that I better not move over. Now, that was a Porsche Carrera 4, so I'm glad I didn't hit it. One thing I have noticed is that it allows the car, as it passes you, it waits a really long time to tell you it's safe to move over too. And I guess that's a good thing, but we're really glad. See, there's somebody there. A lot of these safety features, it'd be easy to take them for granted, but they really do keep you safer while you're driving.
So how's riding in the back seat? It's pretty noisy, but it is comfortable. And we love that you've got 2 seats back here with seat belts so you can ride safely. And they have speakers back here for the stereo so you can actually hear the music okay.
The instrument panel is functional and I've learned to use it. I usually keep miles per hour here, and then if I want to see what the range is or what kind of miles per gallon I'm getting, I can press up one time. I'm averaging 11.6 miles. I have 176 miles to go to get to empty. And then for the trip, most everything we do is on this panel with Apple CarPlay. And if you're used to Apple CarPlay, then it's going to feel familiar. Like, we just got into this van the very first time, connected up Apple CarPlay, and you didn't have to learn any new systems. It was pretty convenient. Cup holders, we've had to learn to deal with those. You have 1, 2, 3 on each side, and then you have 2 bigger ones and 1 smaller one in the middle. USB outlets, not very many. We put a 12-volt adapter in so Lynn could charge her phone from here, and then this is the one that goes to Apple CarPlay, so we keep that connected. In front of the driver, you have another 12-volt, and you have another USB connector if you want to, and it also will fire up Apple CarPlay, but that's all you have. When you press drive mode, it'll show you the current mode you're in for the all-wheel drive. Now, I wish it would remember the last mode, because it starts out every time in normal. When we're on a long trip, we usually set it to Eco, which will give us about a mile per gallon more than normal. We also have modes to set it for slippery, which is snow or ice, for mud and ruts, and if we're towing something. But right now we're going to set it to Eco, get the best gas mileage we can get. While it makes for a cool video, this is almost 2023. What kind of vehicle doesn't use a push button start and a fob? Well, you could say a Ford Transit. Just like the first car I owned when I was 16 years old, you have to put a key in it and turn it to start it. Maybe a little behind the times on that. But if that's a negative, the positive of that is you can leave the van running, unlike a lot of other vehicles. You have to try to trick it to keep it running when you want to lock it and leave it to exit for a little bit. So if I need to leave the van for any reason at all and leave the AC running for Maggie for 5 or 10 minutes, it's really easy to do since it doesn't have that electronic fob. You've seen rear view mirrors before. We have one in our van, and I'm not really sure why we do. It just lets you see to the back of the van. The side mirrors are awesome, and they're placed out in a way that you can see all the way to the rear of the van, and we really like both of those. It does, like most vehicles now, have a backup camera that comes on when you're going to go into reverse. But unlike a lot of other vehicles, there's no trick to get it to stay on all the time. So we're going to order a wireless backup camera and install it here on the dash. And it does have convenient controls for just about everything on the steering wheel, with the exception if you want to pause the music or a book you're listening to, you have to press the power button to actually do a pause. It has something here, but all that does is mute it. So if you're listening to a book and think you're going to be pausing it and then 5 minutes later go back, well, you've missed 5 minutes of the book. One city in the United States bigger than the city we're driving through right now as we head through Chicago, Illinois. And I think there's 6 lanes of traffic right here, and as long as I keep my eyes on the road, it seems like it's nothing at all to worry about, except for when people pull over really quickly. Another thing we've noticed, and I reported before, this is more about the EKKO than the Ford Transit, but Winnebago's efforts to do blind spot detection and warning, it's just, you can't count on it. This thing will turn red and stay red when nothing's there. There'll be somebody beside of you and it will not turn on and give you a warning. The first 3 or 4 trips we took in this, it worked flawlessly. We went through a rainstorm recently and it hasn't worked since then. I know lots of other people are having that issue, but if you're watching this and you have an EKKO and you know how to fix that, please let us know, because I like having that. But let's get back to concentrating on Chicago traffic. The reason the blind spot is so important is, unlike with the Rebel we had before, there's just all kind of blind spots here. You can't really see out the back. You can't hardly see out of anything of the windows on the side. So you rely on your mirrors. And that's okay when you're on a 2 or 3 lane highway. But when there's 6 lanes and people are ducking in like this, I really, really wish that this thing worked the way it was supposed to.
All I have to say is I'm glad I'm not driving right now.
Why is that?
Because it's
Make you nervous?
Yeah, it would make me nervous.
It makes me nervous too, but
all these big trucks pulling in and out and little cars swerving in and out, it just makes me really nervous.
So being nervous about driving here in Chicago traffic has very little to do with the Ford Transit or the EKKO. Unless you drive in it every day, it wouldn't matter if you were in a small Miata, you're going to be nervous about this. And we're trusting we're going the right way, but one thing that's been really good about the Ford Transit is, as people open up lanes and I can move from lane to lane, it really is responsive when you step on the gas. It's amazing how much pep and pickup this thing has to be so big. It also seems to have pretty good stopping capabilities, because there have been a few times that people have stopped right in front of me and I've had to really stomp on the brakes, and it's really done well doing that. So overall, I'm very, very pleased with the performance of the Ford Transit. So let's wrap this up. As with anything, there are a lot of positives and a lot of negatives, but we feel like the positives outweigh the negatives as far as driving a Ford Transit, specifically our Winnebago EKKO. Speaking of driving, I've got another long day today, and I'm not really even dreading it because it's a joy to drive. Thanks for being with us. I'm Owen of Van Trekking Lifestyle, and if this is your first time here, this is the kind of thing we do. We travel around and we tell you guys what it's like with what we use and where we go. And if you like, think about subscribing. We'd love for you to join the family. Until we see you again next time, as Maggie would say, who's riding in the back there, happy tails.